Hello, this is the Japanese Economic Review channel. Today, we're diving deep into the December 2025 Labor Force Survey, straight from Japan's Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications. Now, at first glance, the headline numbers tell a pretty confusing story. But don't worry, we're going to pull back the curtain and find out what's really going on with Japan's shifting workplace. So the big question on everyone's mind is Japan's job market actually getting better? Well, when you first look at the official data, the answer isn't a simple yes or no. It's actually pretty complex. The main numbers seem to be telling two completely different stories at the same time, which gives us a fascinating puzzle to solve today.
All right, to really get what's going on, let's start with the big headline numbers. These are the main figures you'd probably see flashing across the news. And right away, this is where things start to get a little bit weird.
Okay, first up, the seasonally adjusted unemployment rate. It's sitting at 2.6%. Now, on its own, that sounds pretty stable, right? No big changes. But trust me, this is just the very first piece of the puzzle. It gets way more interesting from here. And here's where we see the first twist. The total number of employed people, that is, people with jobs, is up by 310,000 from last year. Now, that sounds great. I mean, on the surface, that's fantastic news. More people working has to mean a stronger economy, right?
Well, hold on, because this is where the puzzle really snaps into focus. In that same period, the number of unemployed people also went up by 120,000. So wait a minute, how is that even possible? How can you have more people with jobs and more people without jobs at the exact same time? It just doesn't seem to add up.
Okay, so the answer to this riddle isn't in the big headline numbers. It's buried a little deeper in the data. To solve this, we've got to look past those headlines and see what I'm calling the great worker shift. It's all about the kind of jobs being created and the kind being lost. And here it is. This is the key. We're seeing this incredible split happening in the job market. Get this. The number of regular, full-time stable employees shot up by a massive 770,000. But at the very same time, the number of non-regular employees, part-timers, contract workers, it dropped by 440,000. This isn't just some small change. This is a huge structural shift happening right before our eyes. And you don't have to take my word for it. These charts come straight out of the official survey, and they paint a really clear picture. Just look at the graph on the left for regular employees. It's a clear upward trend. Now look at the one on the right for non-regular workers. It's heading straight down. They're literally moving in opposite directions. Okay, so this big switch from non-regular to regular jobs is super important, but it still doesn't quite solve our original mystery, does it? It doesn't explain how both employment and unemployment went up. For that, we need to bring in one last piece of the equation, a group called the non-labor force. These are folks who weren't working or even looking for a job before. Think students, some homemakers, or retirees. And here it is, the final piece that makes it all make sense. That non-labor force, it shrank by an incredible 660,000 people. So what does that mean? It means a huge wave of people who were on the sidelines just a year ago decided to jump into the job market. Now, as they started looking for work, some of them found jobs right away. Boom, that's why the employed number went up. And the others? They're still looking, which is why the unemployed number went up too. And there you have it, puzzle solved.
Okay, so we've solved the how. We know how employment and unemployment can both rise at once. But that brings up the next big question. Where? Where are all these new jobs coming from? Let's do a deep dive into the specific industries and see who's hiring.
And when you look at the breakdown by industry, you see a really clear story of winners and losers. We're seeing a huge boom in these really essential sectors. Look at this. Construction is up by 300,000 jobs. Medical and welfare up by 220,000. But at the same time, some of the traditional powerhouses of the economy, like manufacturing and retail, are actually shedding jobs. This bar chart really makes that trend pop, doesn't it? It's so clear. The growth isn't spread out evenly. It's really focused on these critical areas like infrastructure and healthcare. Meanwhile, other big employers are shrinking. What this tells us is that there's a major realignment happening under the surface of the Japanese economy. All right, let's pull all of these threads together. We started with a confusing headline, we uncovered this massive shift toward full-time work, and we've seen which industries are growing and which are shrinking. So, what does it all mean? What is this telling us about where Japan is headed? If you had to boil this entire report down to just one number, This would be it. The report states that the share of non-regular employees dropped to 36.4%. That's almost a full percentage point in just 1 year, which is a big deal. It's a clear signal that Japan is moving away from temporary work and towards more stable, permanent jobs.
So what's the bottom line here? Well, this isn't just another monthly jobs report. What we're really seeing is a fundamental reshaping of Japan's workforce. This could mean a big shift toward greater job security for millions of people. It shows that the economy is growing in really essential areas. And the fact that so many people are jumping back into the job market, that points to higher confidence, which could ultimately lead to more consumer spending and real economic stability down the road.
But of course, this all leaves us with one big, lingering question for the future. Is this major trend we're seeing, this move towards stable, full-time jobs, is this a permanent change that's going to redefine Japan's economy for years to come? Or is it just a temporary reaction to the economic pressures of today? Honestly, that's the biggest question of all, and only time will tell.
Thank you for watching the Japanese Economic Review. We look forward to having you with us again.